The NFL is a matchup-driven league, and accordingly, mismatches make the fantasy world go round. Lucky for you, I'm here today with 4 key mismatches to set your sights on for Week 11 to help get those fantasy rosters right. As always, it's a great day to be great. First up, we have the high-flying 49ers passing attack going up against the usually bad and now also conveniently banged up Buccaneers secondary. Now, shout out to Brock Purdy and company for getting back on track in a major way last week to the tune of 34 points. Probably wasn't a coincidence that it took the return of Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel to snap that 3-game skid. Now, I know there could be plenty of haters out there that want to use this information as evidence that Brock Purdy is simply a system quarterback, but guys, when the system is the best dang one in the entire NFL, maybe that's not the worst tagline ever. Overall, no offense has a higher average combined rushing and receiving PFF grade this season, and accordingly, we have only seen the Dolphins be able to keep pace with this 49ers offense in a variety of advanced metrics when they have everyone healthy. On the other sideline, the 49ers will be taking on a Buccaneers defense that has posted bottom 7 marks in yards per attempt, explosive pass play rate, and fantasy points per game allowed to both quarterbacks and wide receivers. Basically, we have a consensus bottom 10 pass defense going up against a consensus top 2 pass offense, and accordingly, you should feel not good, but great about starting 49ers skill position players of all shapes and sizes this week against the Buccaneers. Our second key mismatch for Week 11 comes from Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle going up against these underqualified Raiders cornerbacks. Now, shout out to both Hill and Waddle for being 2 of the league's 6 most efficient wide receivers dating back to Week 1 last season when it comes down to yards per route run. The artist known as Tyreek in particular has been absolutely ridiculous this year, setting the 2nd highest mark ever in terms of receiving yards through a team's first 9 games. The guy that had the most was 2022 Tyreek Hill, so I think something might just be working down there in Miami. Sadly, Waddle has not quite had the same start to 2023 as we were hoping for. Just the wide receiver 25 in PPR points per game undoubtedly has been impacted by chest, head, shoulders, knees, and toes injuries. Okay, I made up the final 3 of those, but he's been banged up throughout the year, but luckily, thanks in large part to this matchup, the good times should get back to rolling in a major way for Waddle this week. With all due respect to Max Crosby and that defensive front, we just haven't seen this secondary overly tested throughout the season. This explains why some of their advanced pass statistics aren't all that bad, because guess what, guys? When you get to face Jordan Love, Mac Jones, Tyson Bagent, Tommy DeVito, and Zach Wilson, the numbers are usually going to be in your favor. So 31-year-old Marcus Peters has been beat like a drum by Tyreek Hill throughout his career, and elsewhere in the secondary we have safeties and cornerbacks that aren't even managing to crack PFF's top 50 coverage players at their position. When Nate Hobbs is by far your best cornerback statistically, guys, things aren't going to go all that great against a Dolphins offense that, oh by the way, has absolutely dominated against zone heavy defenses like the Raiders, thanks to Tua averaging the 2nd highest yards per attempt mark against cover 2, 3, 4, and 6 looks. So hey, I get it. You're probably starting Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle regardless of if you are truly trusting what I'm telling you in this video. But what I'm saying, guys, don't be surprised if we finally get that mega breakout this week that we all know Waddle is still very much capable of. All right, guys, now let's talk about some defenses that could absolutely smash the opposing offenses that they are set up to face in Week 11, starting off with this Cowboys pass defense going up against Bryce Young and company. Now, again, you don't need me to tell you just how good Micah Parsons and everyone is in Dallas, but why not? Let's try. League best pressure rate on the season. They have also picked off a league high 4% of their opponent's pass attempts, aka we're looking at the single best combination in the league of a defense being able to get to the quarterback and then also creating turnovers when inevitably hurried throws happen. Overall, only Myles Garrett and the Browns have created more play-by-play havoc than Parsons and the Cowboys this season. That's a pretty high mark, guys. And now they get to sink their teeth into a Panthers offense that has only 2 games with more than 300 total yards this season. That is easily the lowest mark in the entire NFL. And I get it. It's a team sport. We can't blame everything on Bryce Young. But guess what? The everything going around Bryce Young has certainly helped cause Bryce Young to be objectively the worst quarterback in the NFL this year. Whether you want to look at EPA per dropback, completion percentage over expected, or just raw yards per attempt, you're going to have a really tough time ranking pretty much anyone ahead of the NFL draft's #1 overall pick. Here's to hoping they get things figured out for his future. But guys, not thinking that's going to be fixed as early as this Sunday. So when you see the Panthers implied to score the 3rd fewest points of week 11, don't be surprised if we do see that sad reality come to fruition against Parsons in the league's single best pass rush. And speaking of that Myles Garrett-led Browns pass rush, we need to talk about how the Browns front 7 is sure looking like they're going to be blowing up that Steelers offensive front in both the pass and the run game this week. So when you do look at the Browns this year, #3 in pressure rate and #2 in yards before contact allowed per carry, aka running or passing the ball has been very difficult. It's no wonder they rank 1st in EPA allowed per play through 10 weeks of action. Now, credit to Pickett and company for going out there and eating the W against the Browns back in week 2, but I wouldn't necessarily rely on them having not 1 but 2 defensive scores to go to their name this time around. That said, guys, if the Steelers aren't able to get those defensive scores, sure seems like they're going to have a lot of trouble moving the ball behind PFF's 31st ranked offensive line in pass blocking and just the 19th ranked group against the run. Further complicating matters is the reality that Pickett hasn't even helped out his team when they have given him the benefit of a clean pocket. 3rd fewest yards per attempt and the 4th lowest adjusted completion rate when working out of a clean pocket this season. That's not good, guys, and you can see tape littered everywhere with Pickett sadly being afraid to take chances downfield, even when it sure seems like the coverage allowed the shot to be taken. So yeah, recently named new starting running back Jaylen Warren certainly deserves RB2 borderline consideration, and a similar sentiment is true for Deontay Johnson around the top 24 talents thanks to nothing other than that sweet volume. But George Pickens is more of a boomer bust wide receiver 4. For the love of God, don't start Kenny Pickett. And just in general, guys, close start sit questions involving a Steelers player should probably be going to the guy not about to spend 60 minutes lined up across from Myles Garrett and company. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to the 4 biggest mismatches of week 11. Hope you learned something. I know I did as I was gathering this lovely research, and you can find my article on the topic over for free at fantasylife.com. Again, it's a great day to be great. Best of luck in week 11 and beyond in Fantasyland. Go win those championships.